Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, April 17th, 10 a.m. business meeting. We have several on the agenda today: employee labor insurance, risk safety and training, budget corrections, information technology, and then miscellaneous. So we'll just start right off with employee labor.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jessica Warren, Human Resources. I have a few requests to fill for this morning. The first item comes from Public Works. They would like to fill an operator 1 position at Castle Rock Shop. The employee resigned last week, and this would include any domino effect for the request to fill.
Create a what?
A domino effect. So if somebody from
Gotcha. Okay.
the Longview shop signs for it, then we would fill the Longview shop position until we get to the
I
bottom.
got you. Yeah, I'm good with it. The other two commissioners are.
Okay, thank you. Next one is also with Public Works, a solid waste operator 3 transferred to the road crew. So they would like to fill his position of an operator 3 up at the landfill.
You knew that was coming, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the next item comes from Building and Planning. They would like to fill a senior planner position. The previous senior planner promoted into the planning manager position, so they would like to fill his position.
Good. Good.
Okay, thank you. And
Well,
then,
did this, the plan, so we found a person to fill Greta's position?
yes, so Wayne Nelson, I believe, filled Greta's position.
And he was with us before.
Yeah, he was in a senior planner position before.
So now we're filling Mr. Nelson's position.
Mhm.
That's the domino effect.
That is the domino effect, yeah.
Although it didn't involve a union this time. I mean,
No, yeah, we
Yeah.
typically do the domino effect for union positions.
Any questions? Okay,
And then just an update from Building and Planning, the planner that was in their VSP position has resigned. So they will not be filling that position once it's vacated.
I think we had that as a workshop last week and
Mhm.
the program will stay. But that's the one that we're going to shift over to Darren Hopt and the Conservation
Right.
District, right?
Yeah. There was, I guess that's for Tracy when she comes up next.
She's here.
Yeah. I know.
She is here, she.
To stay in topic, 75% of the funding was going to go, we were going to use 25. Is that still true?
Good morning, Commissioners. That'll be a topic of discussion going forward, but for right now it's 75-25, but part of the contract will be maintained within our office for the reporting pieces of it, but majority of the work will go to the Cowlitz Conservation District.
okay, I don't have any questions.
No, that's good.
Yeah,
It's fine.
All right, and then those are the only requests I have this morning, outside of an executive session for after everybody's done.
okay.
Thank you.
Risk, safety and training.
Good morning, Commissioners. Victoria Blozel, Risk and Safety Manager. Let's see, currently I'm working on the WCRP underwriting data. We provide that every year so that they can get that to their brokers for our 2023-2024 renewals. So I'll be contacting different departments to ask various questions on that data, things they own, things they have, employees and such. So that is due April 24th. So I'll be working on that. every year, our workers' comp representative, Eberly Vivian, submits an annual report to Labor and Industries. They did that, and while preparing for the report, they noticed some discrepancies on the first quarterly report that was submitted in 2022. So now we do have a balance of $2,655.79 due to Labor and Industries. So I'll be submitting that payment. I think just some numbers were mixed up when that report was originally done. But that has been completed. A little update on NeoGov. We have tested out the trainings with the new facilities maintenance employee, and that went well. I'll be getting in touch with him to get his feedback on everything, but I just want to kind of slowly roll that out so that we can make sure that all the kinks are worked out. We did have 2 new employees with Public Works start today. So they'll be our first 2 complete guinea pigs with all of the training. So I will have a report back next week on how that went. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
Any questions?
In reverse order, that the NeoGov, that was, what specific training was that?
That's already been assigned.
The one you just described said facility maintenance and tested and
So he did, I believe, 5 trainings. His required is bloodborne pathogens, hazardous communications, heat stress. He did our new online first aid training,
when you say he did,
new employee.
oh, okay.
Yep.
So,
And then a couple others that I probably am missing.
so was this just a new employee or was this
It was a new employee, yes,
only the new employee doing the
Yep.
5?
correct.
Okay.
Yep, I just wanted to test it to see how the process went for him. And then the plan is, after these 2 new employees that we started today, I will be going department to department and rolling it out. I will upload historical data as we go so that I can get everybody kind of set out correctly. First will be the landfill employees because they've been waiting patiently, especially for updated first aid training. So that'll be my first step, and then I'll just move along all the departments and get everybody lined out.
Just as a refresher to me, these are trainings that we take, we understand, and by the time the heat comes, we forget. Do we take this training annually, semi-annually?
Majority of them are annually.
But we do
Some of
over
them
and
are
over
longer than
again.
that.
We do them over and over again.
Correct.
And how long are these? Like there were 5 sessions?
They vary from 20 minutes to probably 40 minutes, depending. The longest training being the first aid, CPR, AED class, which is 3 hours and 30 minutes.
Okay, thank you. And
The thing about that course, though, I will say is that you don't have to sit through the whole at one time. So if they want to do, it's in portions, there's kind of like little snippets that probably are 5 to 15 minutes long. And so you can finish one of those, 2 or 3, however many you want to do, stop, come back to it as employees have a little bit more time, which I think was part of the problem with our previous trainings, getting people to complete them.
yeah, I don't know. I didn't take very many trainings. I'm supposedly untrainable, but there is it can be boring as all hell. And the message can typically be compressed into this, but it's spread out over that. So I'm hoping you're trying to keep you know, if you spot people sleeping or playing with their phone.
Yeah, well, the new trainings, so our old trainings we used, you could just skip ahead and take the test. Or quickly go through it. These trainings, most of them require participation throughout, so questions sparsely, thrown in there. And require you to actually take the entire training before the test, and then to pass the test as well.
And then I would go to another topic. Were there questions on this topic?
You've probably answered this for me before, and I'm sure it does this, but like say landfill could designate trainings that were specific to them or, different places can do that, I'm sure. Yeah.
Correct, yeah, I'll be setting up each position to have those specific trainings. So for instance, the landfill employees, they take a hydrogen sulfide training, which is pretty specific to them.
Yeah.
So when a new employee gets hired into that position will have that specific training. Or if somebody transfers in.
Thanks.
Okay, I also am wondering, I think you tried to explain it and I was not understanding. What's the data you're looking for from the different departments for the WCRP?
Things like different policies we have in place, or how many vehicles we have, how many bridges we have, how many miles of roads, there's a lot, things like that.
Okay, we haven't done that before.
We have,
So this is going to be the delta, the change from the past, maybe?
yes, the risk pool provided me last year's answers to those questions, although I can't find any previous years in any of the folders. So many of these things probably haven't changed, but I don't know the last time that they were actually.
It sounds fairly complicated, actually.
There's a lot of data, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else for Victoria? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Budget, Kathy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Manager. So tomorrow we have a budget amendment as an agenda item for the meeting. So that's been finalized and turned in. This week I will be attending a Finance Committee meeting with the Treasurer's Office. I'll also be attending a meeting with Victoria to go over the Washington County's risk pool report. It's 114 pages, and so she's going to guide me through that. The next 2 weeks, I'll be attending a Government Finance Officer Association training. It's called Fundamentals of Budget. It's a virtual training. It's 14 hours, and they've spread it over 2 weeks. And one of the topics that I was very interested in that they're going to go over is focusing on how to balance a budget in a recession. So I thought that would be pertinent and so useful. And that's everything I have to report.
Was looking at the amendment is basically for tomorrow, just the one column up at the top, the change.
Yes,
Yeah.
on the fund balance for the
Yeah.
general fund,
Yeah.
it's $146,000.
Okay. Any questions? We're good. Thank you. Corrections, Moran.
Good morning, Marin Fox, Corrections Director. Population today is 210, and we had 52 bookings over the weekend, which is getting back to some pretty normal pre-COVID booking numbers. 6 of the inmates we have in custody today are DOC only. I don't have much else to report. I did submit information to you on Friday, I believe, the requested information regarding bookings and releases. I didn't know if there were any questions on that.
I didn't have any questions on it. I appreciated it. Any questions?
Any update on any discussions about the juvenile detention center as an annex for you?
I have not heard back from Superior Court judges regarding that. I met with them a while ago. I could circle back and see if there's any interest. I don't know what their census is looking like. I don't know if they've reported their numbers. I'll reach out to them and see if their numbers are up or if that's something we should still be exploring.
I wish you good luck.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else?
Anything else? Thanks,
Okay.
Marin. Appreciate it. Kim.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kim Hort, IT Director. On behalf of the Broadband Action Team, I would like to request from the board a free, there's no cost to this, a rapid design study. I'm a part of the board along with Commissioner Mortensen to address broadband in rural counties and areas. And this study would do a full assessment of our internet service providers and broadband of our Cowlitz County rural areas. So I do have information if you guys are interested of what the study looks like. I do have a sample, but I wanted to discuss and request.
Could you flesh that out in more detail? What just your whole thing? What is it you're exactly asking of us?
I'm asking the board to consider a rapid design study for Cowlitz County. This would determine the broadband coverage in Cowlitz County and identify our weak points of that coverage.
And who would be doing that? It would be your staff?
It would not be any of my staff. This is through Breaking Point Solutions, and they provide this service at no cost to the county. So it would be a formal letter requesting.
Now I remember.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I have information, but I just wanted to kind of take the opportunity to chat with you guys about it before requesting action.
Yeah, this is a good topic for us to try and figure out what are the implications.
Yeah.
I don't know why we would get somebody to do something for free. And then I want to understand what it is that, well, who's paying the bill, and then, you know, it's the old follow the money argument. I've been attending the broadband action team meetings, and there are a lot of people on that.
There is.
There are about 50, 60, 70 people. on the
Yes,
invite list.
and they're also communicating with libraries, internet service providers. So it's kind of a large array of partnership within the community.
And I think here it's a fundamental question to which I don't know the answer is our IT department part of figuring out what IT is required for the county, for the entire county, or is that a service for us inside the county, inside the county administration? I have tended to think it's the latter, but I don't have any argument strong one way or the other. So I think we could use your guidance there.
I know.
It's
I actually had a couple of questions about the whole topic, because we have discussed it before, sort of. And we worked with the Council of Governments and somebody from a port,
Yeah. the
make some kind
Petrichor.
of an application for a portion of the county. I don't know where that fits into any of the discussions. In other words, it seems like work has already been done to identify areas that are short of coverage. So I don't know where that failed application comes into play. And then the second one is that we've had the private entity approach us to workshop about coverage in the Lewis River area. Are we cutting them out of the picture, or are they actively involved in the broadband coalition that you've been working with? Because they need to be part of the picture, I think. We don't want to discriminate against anybody that shows an interest. But if the work's already done, it seems like they've already identified where there's poor coverage. So again, I'm not sure why we're getting why we need yet one more study, and B, I'm always suspicious of getting something for free. Is it really is it valuable?
And Bill Fashion's not available for this meeting, so some of those questions I think would be better replied by him or by Monica. But my understanding is that it provides a more in-depth study. I am newer to the project, so I don't know the history and the study results of past applications, but this is for us to be grant ready in June of this year to apply for federal funding.
I almost think this group would be the ones who'd be interested in that study. I mean, they can certainly involve us, but this group is, I'm assuming, will eventually come to us for a recommendation on what to be done. So they would be the ones probably interested in the study. And to Commissioner Mortensen's deal, yeah, I don't know where that lands. I think once it's, and I kind of am on a page with Commissioner Weber. I think from listening to the gentleman that we had the workshop with, they know the areas that are pretty well are not covered. So I think we know that. Then it's just a matter, do we want IT to drive that for the county, or we want Commissioner's office to drive that? Who drives it when it gets to that point, I think is the question. But that study almost seems like this group would want to see that and then say, okay, this is what we have. This is the plan for fixing it, and who's going to drive it.
So far, I think everything, I agree with everything said, and Dennis is spot on. We went through this. We went through this a while ago in a fairly narrow view. This is expanding it to like the Diking District, the library, everybody. The problem with that is I don't think you can ever get really useful information, because everybody will always reach for the stars on what they want. You aggregate what everybody's needs are, and you're going to need fiber conduit that's that big in diameter.
Not what their needs are, what their wants are, right?
Yeah.
Aggregating their wants, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think I think trying to bring everybody together was the intent, because the federal government released a lot more funds also. And the private, I'm with you completely. We must not do anything that would preclude somebody from having an opportunity, some private enterprise from having an opportunity. Problem is, this is a quasi-regulated area. This is my territory. How I got it, I don't know. This is your territory. How you got it, I don't know. And I don't think it's worth our director's time to spend too much time on that, but to maybe facilitate some not even that, to review some of the outcome of their stuff is probably not an unreasonable thing to do. But I don't expect a lot of elbow grease. I mean, we got our plates full here, just handling our own stuff.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I would expect they kind of come to us with a plan, and then we hash it out as how to best to implement that.
Can you imagine the mess of trying to decide how to prioritize anything in that? With
70 people coming to a consensus. Good luck with that.
Yeah,
So I'm assuming the group that you said would provide the information, would do the study, has got a contract with the state government
They do.
through the federal funding of this broadband.
Mhm. Yes,
And I'm assuming that in order to get the study going, the law says we have to request it.
yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Okay, so at least if we want to support the group going forward, we have to accept, we should be making the request on their behalf.
yeah. How much staff time are you thinking? Virtually none?
Virtually none,
Yeah.
aside from just reviewing the findings and the results.
So I do know, over the years at various meetings that I've been to, the topics come up. And usually the complaint is whatever the data the federal government has identified in terms of coverage is woefully inadequate. And that maybe that's trying to bring it up to date.
Correct.
Because they had places covered that nobody lives in and.
But we are the
places that people
government.
live in that don't have any coverage. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. And they're also a snapshot in time. And like I know our chairman has a service now that didn't exist a year ago for most people.
It wasn't available. Well, when I applied for it in December, it wasn't available here. And so finally got it. Yeah.
And
So
that actually is a game changer, I think.
yeah, I wouldn't, it works fast enough for me that if broadband was down my road, I wouldn't run it up to do it. But that's just me. There's a lot of people that use stuff much more than I do. So I guess the money part of it is they're getting a grant to do this stuff from the feds because the feds kind of pushing this.
Yeah,
and
it
do-
is a state contract.
Yeah, so. And if we okay it, then they can get the data. This group can't request it themselves.
Correct.
So it's kind of on our shoulders. So I don't have any problem helping out if that group think it'll work. Yeah.
I agree. I would ask you to be very observant of whatever nuances are implied in there. Once we go ahead with it, they're typically, I've stepped into things that seem innocuous, and after a while I realize, oh my, that was a bad mistake. I don't think that's going to be applicable here, but we would count on you to alert us of issues that would violate essentially what we've said here. We don't want to choose winners and losers. We do want to facilitate expanding broadband if we can. That's about it, isn't it? Yeah.
Any other questions?
So to make it formal, you'll be preparing a letter or work with Kelly to prepare a letter that we can sign this week?
Yes, I provided examples of what other counties have submitted. So I can,
And we should sign it as soon as you have the letter ready?
we
Or
can do
can
that.
we wait till next week to formally adopt?
I wasn't given a strict deadline. The sooner the better. So then we can get started on the study. So if it cuts in line too much for tomorrow, then I'm okay with next week. It's up to you guys.
We can just leave it for consent calendar for next week, but sign it and get it going
Great.
as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Okay.
Other items that I've been working on or are geared up for this week is finalizing the risk pool cybersecurity application. So I'm working with Victoria in regards to our annual renewal. And there's been a heavy conversation with retention planning. I've been working with the commissioner's staff and various departments to kind of streamline and initiate our record retention, especially in relations to the Public Records Act. We're trying to address email and coming up with a strategy and then document retention. The hurdle that we have is Outlook is one place where people keep their email, but really Barracuda is our system of record. And so coming up with tools and understanding to clean out Outlook, so then we can start cleaning out Barracuda. So we're coming up with strategies and a game plan and trying to find policy and work with legal to, develop our county policies for retention.
So the status quo right now, all records are retained forever.
Yes.
We don't have a retention deadline or a
No,
limit,
it is not.
although that's allowed by state law.
Mhm.
So we assume an ungodly burden of maintaining all those records going back
Yeah.
to the invention of
Timbuktu.
time. I
Mhm.
guess.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
instead
So-
of having a policy that's more realistic
yeah.
and in line with the state.
So I applaud you working on this. It's needed.
Yes, it's a large boulder. We're also trying to leverage the tools that we have. So the Laserfish team is educating themselves on the retention side of things for Laserfish documents. And then the cybersecurity team and IT is looking at the tools available through Barracuda and then also through Microsoft. We learned that there's what's called a fast track. So after we do our Teams deployment, we're looking at the retention policy for Outlook and kind of using the tools that we have and cleaning up the ungodly amount of data that we have. And I'm working with budget in regards to our,
Oops. I'd like to chime in on that,
Oh.
if you're changing topic.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So, this is sufficient. I'm not sure how to break into the argument, but, we should have what we would like, a
Mhm.
policy that says, this is how we should be administering items.
Mhm.
Then we've got the reality of what we can do with the tools we have. But we
Correct.
must have this picture up front first.
Mhm.
And we may have to alloy that, and maybe we don't get here ever, but at least we know what we should achieve. And really, software is not meant to dictate how you do the right thing. It's supposed to help you do the right thing.
correct.
So I just want to make sure we have that in mind. And then I think for document retention, I would probably look at the auditor and maybe the finance people as being part of a team to get this major picture that I'd call the goal.
Absolutely. And with the timeline, it makes the most sense to address policy. As we're learning and educating ourselves on the software, we're focusing on, like you said, the picture of what we should be abiding by. So we're trying to be mindful of that as well.
Well, I'm not, I think you ought to work on this first.
Mhm.
Okay, and I haven't seen that.
Nope,
document.
we're in the early stages in articulating our strategy. So
Okay.
anything else on retention?
No.
Okay. The other request that I have is I would like to apply for a Washington State Archive grant through the Washington State Secretary's Office. And I attended a virtual training on the grant, and there is the opportunity where multiple departments can apply for the grant. So I would like to not necessarily write the grants for the departments, but kind of collaborate and see if we can get more interest countywide. This grant has been awarded to us before in the past. For example, the auditor's office has been awarded, I believe, for document imaging. So I just wanted to get your approval to apply for that grant and work with county staff to see if they're interested.
And what, you must have a plan for what you'd want to do with it?
I do. For IT, I would like to apply for the technology portion of the grant. It's for $30,000. So I would ask for $30,000 for additional storage. So it'd be the purchase of storage. As departments go to digital imaging, we have to store the digital images. Hence, we have a need for expanding our virtual servers and storage.
Any questions?
I just.
So how does, oh, yeah.
After
So
you-
how does that fit within retention policy? Do we need as much storage if we have a retention policy that says keep records for 5 years or 8 years or 7 or whatever the
Sure.
determination is?
A good example would be Superior Court. They image their microfilm and documents, and it's 30 terabytes of data, and that's forever and always kind of records. And what they're trying to do is streamline their public records requests to more of a digital format rather than having citizens come in requesting, but we have to be able to store it. So in this case, we don't have the storage capacity for those large vaults of data that we have to keep for long periods of time.
I thought stuff for the courts comes through the Office of Court Administration. They're always getting grants for stuff from, because after all, they're an independent branch of the government, so.
I did take money from them. I do have a AOC grant for the AV equipment.
Mhm.
So I do try to be mindful of their funding opportunities as well.
Okay.
One question is almost, in the old days, we had floppy disks. I'll bet you can't find something to play a floppy disk on. And you start working your way through to VHS, beta, and so forth. As we store massive amounts of data, what's the thinking about maintaining continuity into the future?
Are you talking about like backups
Well,
or?
can you even find a CD player anymore? It's tough,
Mhm.
but you can do it. So my question is, as we store all this information, at some point, it'll be a box there that we cannot access because we stored it 10 years ago and the technology changed. And for me, it's kind of an academic question because I don't think there's anything you can do about it. I'm just curious if that was ever a discussion. I mean, we store stuff, recovering it.
I mean, we try to use modern technology. So as technology changes, we again take the opportunity to update our records and how we keep them.
Okay, so we may end up a task in the future of trying to upgrade all that we have stored. Then the other one is a little more difficult in the retention. When you retain video, you can retain it at various levels of compression.
Mhm.
And I was just at the PA's office last week, and they're having all kinds of issues because everybody in the county has body cams now.
Mhm.
And any one incident might have 7 hours worth of body cam material. And it's a burden to them in lots of ways, but one of the noticeable things is that out of, say, an hour's worth of video, maybe the only interesting parts are 15%. But we keep it all, and that should be kept at a very high resolution. The rest of it I would keep at a low resolution, maybe not even keep it online if that became an issue. That depends on the tools you have. Anyhow, the document retention may have to address what's the word I'm looking for? Resolution.
That was kind of along my lines of questioning if we keep Superior Court documents, are we also keeping that body cam footage? Is that on us to store?
It's on the courts. I don't know whether that I'd ask you.
I believe it's a cloud application. So a lot of what they stream goes to this cloud application, and then like the
That's
PA's
held
office
there.
downloads it.
Gotcha.
And then that's what stays on our servers.
Okay.
Going back to the grant application.
But just a second,
Oh.
continue. In that case, the city of Longview has their own, they have to take care of their own data. See, that the thing I'm wondering is that once it gets to the courts, I think the courts cannot subordinate themselves to the policy of Longview, say. They've got to have their own retention. So we may be retained. Okay, enough discussion. It gets
So
complicated.
it
And
may or may
the
not.
body cams are going to be property, those documents are property of the law enforcement officers as opposed to the courts.
Until it gets probably introduced in the
Well, it's
court
introduced
case.
as evidence, right?
So
Yeah.
the answer is, yeah, we probably will have to store some of that depending on how it comes through. Yeah, okay.
And that repeats the importance of having that front, that main document that says how we're going to answer these questions.
Yeah.
On the topic of body cams, there is, again, the technology portion of this grant where they could acquire software. So for instance, the PA's office could apply for the grant for redaction software. It's a new purchase. We don't have anything that redacts video. So again, this may be it would be a one-time investment from this grant opportunity, and then we would have to cover the ongoing cost. But it could definitely help our PA's office if they were interested in applying to offset that cost. Do you have a question?
No, my smirk is because
I'm not opposed to going forward with the grant.
I'm not either.
investment is not the right word for me. It's an expense.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
So I'll reach out to the departments and just kind of do short little meetings to kind of introduce them, and then we'll let you know how
Yeah.
it goes.
Maybe even next time we chat, you will tell us definitively how the courts store the video, whether it come,
Yep, I can get
Okay.
some more information on that. Other than that, it's going to be a quiet week.
Oh, now you said
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you just jinxed yourself. Thanks, Kim. Appreciate it. Miscellaneous. Gentlemen, have any?
I think I missed a meeting on the Rails to Trails program on Friday. You both attended while I was recuperating, as I continue to recuperate, obviously.
You,
Any impressions on the status and?
Well, I think Senator Wilson just kind of wanted to know what each, like what the county wanted, what City of Longview wanted, what Council, even though their section is like yay wanted, because and Commissioner Mortensen can chime in anytime, but he's starting to get questions from different entities. He mentioned more than once that last week alone, he received calls from 4 property owners wanting to know what the status is and what's going on behind there, probably because it showed up in the newspaper. But so he's just trying to get what everybody wants, and then he has plans to talk to Patriot Rail, but he was very clear in saying you probably, whatever the body wanted, it'd have to be a total project, because he doesn't see, for instance, Longview could really like it because, and it makes sense, because they could run a dedicated water line down that would be much more cost effective than doing it through other areas. But Patriot Rail isn't going to sell one section for that type of thing. It didn't sound like. So I think he was just trying at that point for us to get together, and for the county part of it, what do we want to see with the county part of it? And I don't know that I have that answer. I think that's a discussion for sure. There is a lot of concern about the liability because you have the trestles and all that. There's no doubt there.
we also received a phone call. I know I received one. I forwarded to the clerk of the board, who forwarded to each of you, I think. And basically, what this call says, the letter you sent that took out the 2 sections that said you will take care of liability and you have the funds to develop the trail. You took those out, and therefore you're no longer eligible for the extension that you're asking, for which you're asking. And so I'm sitting here scratching my head and saying, well, we discussed those two sentences or those two sections pretty extensively. And I think right now, and I'm saying that the county doesn't have any specific interest in that. If somebody needed us to help them in some way, I doubt we'd stand in their way and we might even help them. But as of now, I don't see how we can have any interest in it. And so that extension will, I think we've got 120
80.
some odd days,
Yeah,
something like that. And then it's gone.
yeah. It became real obvious to me that the biggest winner would be, and like I said, don't disagree with it, it's kind of an infrastructure project, would be city of Longview for a main water, an uninterrupted main water line that would, he had a lot of technical stuff for what it does. So, but it made sense to me. And if, like Commissioner Morton said, if there's some way we can support that or help in that endeavor, I don't mind getting into that. I don't know too much where it gets into county. I think you're past the trestles and you're kind of out. Yeah, I don't know that there's a whole lot for us, but certainly the city of Longview has some interest.
There was a curious issue raised by Mr. Karnofsky that the park board had that in their plan, and that surprised everybody.
Yeah, I wrote that down. I'll have to take a look at it.
Yeah. So what Jeff wanted from us is a definitive statement that he can use for whatever position he's going to take to help the county.
He's starting to get inquiries in the legislature because he has participation in those areas and like I said, he mentioned several times starting to get inquiries from citizens about that. And he's just, as Arn said, wants a definitive statement on how he can approach that. He really wasn't suggesting anything to us. He was just asking us to make it known what you want and pass it on to him.
So in that case, I don't know how whether, I mean, I gladly make a motion now to say like the county doesn't have any specific interest at the moment.
I don't know if Commissioner Weber wanted to, that was a public meeting. I don't know if you'd like any other information from that, or you're good with that.
No, from my understanding, the whole point for the federal government allowing the negotiations is to establish a rail bank so that the route transportation and its connection with interstate commerce would be maintained in the future, a future potential. And in the interim, we can use it for other things as long as that route right away remains. That suggests the entire railroad has to be one entity. One of the questions that I have yet to hear from Patriot is they've cut it. It's not intact anymore.
Mhm.
Are they going to restore the bridge? And I keep hearing word, no, that's not part of their plan. So what happens to the rail bank? That seems to have disappeared. I know Jeff has expressed interest in wanting that rail bank in the future for the port. If something happens to the other railroad bridge, but you know.
You see, I think, yes, I think that's true. And that would be a Port of Longview issue, and the county would be not standing in the way, objecting, and if anything, we might support it somehow, but I don't know. But it would be driven by the port.
So the idea of a connecting a rail or a trail to our biking and hiking network is even though it's on in the Parks and Rec recommendation, you're saying no to that.
That's correct, yeah.
So what our interest would be is just maintaining the right of way with no formal use to it.
I think that's what Jeff Wilson would pursue, but I don't know.
Well, we do need to give him some direction, so I would entertain that motion, Arn.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we communicate to Senator Wilson that at the moment Cowlitz County does not have a specific interest in that abandonment.
Okay,
An interest in abandonment?
In the abandoned, the Cowlitz Cowlitz Railroad, Patriot Rail. Okay, let's call it Patriot Rail.
I'm not clear. You want us to walk away or you want us to continue negotiating?
No, I want us to walk away at the moment because I'm told I have no choice. I was willing to send a letter asking for an extension because a part of my job is to get flexibility for the county. But the flexibility here would be a price that we should not pay.
any other questions on the motion? Don't see anything, then I would call for a vote in favor.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
I'm opposed.
So we'll draft a letter to Senator Wilson.
Yeah. And you want me to call back the gentleman from the East Coast and the Federal Transportation Office? He wanted clarification. Well, you both heard the voicemail.
Yeah. I think you should let them know where,
Yeah. Okay, I'll do that.
and I probably expand on the conversation we had with Senator Wilson. We know there's other entities that have interest in,
Yeah.
and if Longview, if we find a way we can support Longview or them, I'm not opposed to that, but I don't see a whole lot for the county. Now, as you I'll just offer this out too, and this is kind of a different subject, although it could be tied in. Tuesdays, you heard me before we got into public comments, just update the public on a couple of things that we had discussed. I open that same opportunity before I do that to both my colleagues, if they had something they wanted to bring up and update on. I'll certainly open that floor and make sure you have that opportunity before we hit public comments. Anything else in miscellaneous? We're trying to make it till 11, so we or we take a. Or we
But I
take
think
a-
we have an executive session, don't we?
Yeah, and Tracy just asked, we have an 11 o'clock executive session scheduled, so They can do theirs first.
I don't think I can hear you.
So Tracy has an 11 o'clock.
I don't think I can hear you. Sorry.
Sorry. Tracy said that they have an 11 o'clock scheduled, so they
Yeah.
can do theirs first and then I'll go after.
After them or after the,
After their attorney. call.
Okay.
Yeah, so, thanks.
So again, your request is for review of performance or
No,
collective
collective
or
bargaining is mine.
for negotiations?
yeah, we talked about it a little bit last week and I think you're,
Mhm.
And Tracy's is on what topic?
I don't know. Potential litigation.
Okay. And how much for each one? Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry, that's your job.
Sorry, mine is 15, probably.
yeah,
Tracy's is
Well-
15.
we hit 11, we'll get Tracy up there and get that hammered out.
Okay.
Good. Can we take a 5-minute break?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.